We are live.
Welcome again to Jewcast. If you didn't know, we were live just a little while ago with Simcha Brodsky, pulling double duty, a double header today with Doug Mackey. Doug is infamously Ricky Vaughn, the man that posted the funniest memes in 2016. So funny, in fact, that the Department of Justice went after him, prosecuted him over memes. So, Doug Mackey, we're going to get into that and talk about fixing that. But Doug, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Yeah, man. First of all, can you tell us a little bit about Ricky Vaughn? Like, what was it like just being a meme master in the 2016 election? Because there's not that many OGs that can say that they influenced the country with memes in 2016.
Well, it was a wild trip. It wasn't anything I ever expected to happen. I created this Ricky Vaughn account just to read Twitter mostly, and I wasn't even planning on posting anything. And you have to choose a name, you have to choose an avatar. So I just went with something random that I thought was funny. And the crazy thing is, by the peak of it, in 2016, this thing had grown so fast. The amount of eyeballs on the account, the amount of DMs, replies, everything else was completely overwhelming. And it just became a wild phenomenon that I never expected.
What were you think a couple of your posts, if you could go back that far, that you think were the most like just knocking the Democrats in the mouth or pumping up Trump supporters? What do you think maybe some individual posts, if you could, like to give some more flavor to like what it is that you did that was so potent?
Yeah, I'm thinking of one in particular, but a lot of these memes on 4chan that nobody really even knew about, they started sort of leaking their way onto Twitter. So it's not like I just saw some of these memes, and I think the wall memes and the Pepe in the wall, that was huge. I mean, that was hilarious, and nobody knew what that was. And I didn't create it or anything. I just posted it on Twitter, and the other one was the MAGA centipede, and someone else made that, right, Comrade Stump or something like that. And so I just clipped a little part of it. But now it was just kind of that, and a lot of it was just take the messaging and go way over the top with it, and it was a lot of fun. But I'm saying Build the Wall was probably the biggest meme of 2016.
Wow, that's wild to me. Just as Comrade Stump, for people that don't know, did this whole series of videos, Can't Stump the Trump. That was like the home for me of the 2016 Trump campaign. And like Doug is pumping that up. Pepe really only became this massive thing 2016. Doug was pumping that up. And Build the Wall, Doug's pumping that. For people that don't if you know the memes of 2016, like Doug is telling you he laid the foundation for Trump's victory. And I really just want people to understand that.
So one of the great memes was the draft our daughters too. I mean, that was a great meme because that was the greatest memes hit hard on an issue that they didn't want to talk about, like Hillary Clinton didn't want to talk about. So the
Tell people what draft
idea,
our daughters was. I love that one. So good.
So this meme was used against me as evidence in federal court. So Hillary Clinton actually came out and said women should have to register for the Selective Service. And so therefore the thinking was, well, Hillary Clinton's got to get in the White House. She's going to draft our daughters and fight in, wherever, Ukraine, doesn't matter, wherever. And so the meme was saying, well, the men have done their duty. Now it's time to draft our daughters. We're going to vote for Hillary Clinton because we want our daughters to go die on a field in Ukraine or something like that. And this was used against me in federal court.
So what was the actual charges in federal court for you?
Yeah, so I was charged with a Civil Rights Act or Civil Rights era law called Conspiracy Against Rights. This law dates back to 1870. It's a federal felony of up to 10 years imprisonment. And it has to do with a conspiracy to injure, oppress, threaten, or intimidate anyone in the exercise of their civil rights.
So what the government does every day?
Can you tell us, how did they apply that to you? What did they say that you did that you're threatening people's rights?
Yeah, so we had a lot of litigation about this, and bill of particulars and everything else. We say, what is the crime? Is this an injury? It's not a oppression, threatened. So the government came out with the theory that, it's a conspiracy to injure somebody's rights. Well, this is a whole torturing of the statute to begin with, because the statute is injuring someone in the exercise of their rights. And fraud has never, well, even if you say, this was a conspiracy to actually stop people from voting, that it would be a fraud, right? So how is that an injury? This statute clearly says something different. That's even granting them that this was actually an attempt to disenfranchise anybody, which plainly only liberals thought it was. Nobody else really thought this was actually a real attempt to disenfranchise anybody.
For people that don't know, the meme that we're gonna get dug for is if you want to vote now for Hillary Clinton, text your vote to 740. By the way, I believe Jimmy Kimmel made the exact same joke on his late night show a couple years ago. No prosecutions for Jimmy Kimmel, but that is the meme that they went after you for, correct?
Right, exactly. And people saying things like vote on Thursday. Yeah, that's the meme. It said you can skip the line, sit at home, and text your vote in for Hillary Clinton. Don't worry about it. Just text your vote. And this is quite plainly a joke, and nobody believed it. The government went around all over the Eastern District of New York, which is Brooklyn, Queens, etc., and they actually tried to find people who were tricked out of voting. Couldn't find a single person. I mean, people were basically and laughing in their face.
If you get tricked out of voting, you don't deserve your vote. If you're that fucking stupid, you shouldn't be voting anyway.
We need
to bring back natural selection so fucking bad in the world, not just America, but in the world. We take the fucking warning labels off everything. Take the instructions and the warning labels off of fucking everything. People that cannot figure shit out and that cannot keep themselves safe with common fucking sense will work their way out of fucking society in one generation. Just take off the fucking instructions and the fucking warning labels on every fucking thing. That is wild that they can even say like, you might have cost somebody their vote. If you can be convinced to vote by text, you don't deserve the fucking vote. Like, you really don't. You're too fucking stupid to be making decisions.
And it's even worse than that, because this was before we had all the mail-in ballots.
Wow.
In 2016. And I think we're living in the age of Google. I say 5 words on a Google search. How do I vote? 4 words. It's so easy. And, obviously when I saw this meme, which is a whole nother story, they didn't allege that I created the meme or anything. All I did was see it on 4chan. They had these, Trump threads all the time back then. And all I did was share the meme, thinking this is funny. This will get a few laughs out of some people. And it did. And then I got suspended for it on Twitter. And 2 years later, 4 years later, a knock on the door, you're under arrest for posting a meme.
So my question is, how does this not get thrown out of court when they can't even prove that a single person ever was influenced by this not to vote? They don't even allege that. They found nothing. You didn't intimidate anybody not to vote. It didn't happen. So how did this not get laughed out of court?
Yeah, Doug? Exactly. I mean, this is the danger of federal criminal law and the danger of federal conspiracy law, because they don't need a victim. All they need is an agreement and intent. Well, it sounds like, well, was there an agreement? Was there any evidence of an agreement? Was there any evidence of intent? No, but the jury can, quote unquote, impute that there was an agreement.
They can mind read. They can infer into your brain. You wanted to intimidate people, even when there's no evidence as to that. No victim, no evidence of intent, no crime. But we're going to mind read and say, Doug wanted to intimidate those people, so he's guilty.
Yeah, and they're torturing the definition of the word injure here, obviously. So this is what the courts do. I mean, Congress doesn't pass any new laws, so the courts take it upon themselves. Oh, we're going to save the world by stretching the bounds of all these laws, and then you have to fight it in court. It's very difficult. And the other thing was the intent. Well, the intent was basically that I said naughty things. I said bad things. So therefore, I must not have wanted people to vote for Hillary Clinton. Like I might have said a few times, repeal the 19th Amendment, stuff like that. And it's just kind of like these offhand, politically incorrect things to say. One of the things that they brought into court was to say, single mother. This is why, something, you see something in the news that's crazy, and then you respond to it like offhand. This is why single mothers shouldn't vote. Stuff like that. And this is what they bring into a federal criminal trial, regardless of, if this was said a year before the meme, doesn't matter. And then, like I said, they're bringing the draft your daughters because in a conspiracy, they bring in all of the background. So quote unquote background of the conspiracy. So, you shared memes with these people. You were in a group of these people. This shows that you had sort of like there's a group conspiring to do things. And then it just so happens that this meme in particular was an illegal conspiracy.
Was anybody else, because you're talking about these group chats, was anybody else charged with anything, Doug?
Yes. So that's the thing. There was a quote unquote co-conspirator, a cooperating witness for the government who basically, it's funny reading back through his FBI interviews. It's a guy who basically crapped his pants and said to the government, I'll cooperate. Like they didn't even charge him with anything.
Wow.
They didn't. Well, you never know with these kinds of matters, but it doesn't even look like they threatened him with anything. He just kind of came forward and volunteered to be a cooperator with the government. I don't even think he was thinking of my case. Maybe he was. After I got arrested, he crapped his pants and said, I'll cooperate. Just because he posted the meme. This was a guy I never spoke to, never talked to once. I mean, I retweeted him a few times, like everybody else retweeting each other like crazy. And then they got him up there and they coached him over a series of, this is what they do, 10 to 12 interviews. And the guy goes in there first and he's saying things like, oh yeah, there was no grand conspiracy to steal anyone's vote. This is just shit posting. This is just provocation. And we're trying to get a rise out of people and that kind of a thing. And then about 5 or 6 interviews later, they're like, so do you now agree that there was a conspiracy? And he's like, and you agreed? And yes, I do. My intent was to steal votes. I wanted to steal votes. They put him up there. And then, so my attorney cross-examines this guy, obviously never talked to him. And the government goes up on redirect. So was there a silent agreement? Did you and Mr. Mackey have a silent agreement to steal votes? A silent agreement over the internet with a guy 2,000 miles away he had never talked to. So that's how that was the government's position, that was the silent agreement.
Incredible. Do you want to tell people? Because I would like to know. I don't know if you've said this before. Maybe I've forgotten. But who is the absolute coward that decided to say these evil things out of nowhere?
Well, I wish you could tell you his real name, but the government allowed him to testify under a pseudonym to avoid the specter of online harassment. He might have faced mean words online had he testified under his real name.
Doesn't that violate the confrontation clause? You have to be confronted with your accusers, but you don't have to be confronted with people that accuse you that the government are picking up secret agents.
I mean, look, the Sicilian mafia, they had to go in and testify under their real names against whatever the crime boss. So the courts have once again read these exceptions into the law but it's only been used in modern times to keep Mexican mafia cartel informants' identities secret, or ISIS, Al Qaeda. And we're going to do it on these memers who supported Donald Trump. So he was allowed to testify under his pseudonym, which was Microchip. And the guy,
I thought it was. I thought it's Microchip.
Yeah.
Forget for a second Microchip and his cowardice and how disgusting that is. But the government being allowed to give him anonymity, he can't share his name, but we're gonna share your name, Doug. It makes me think of East Germany, the communist Russia, like the most totalitarian, evil, spy on your neighbor, inform on your neighbor, like the most disgusting regimes in modern history. Like that's what it reminds me of.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And not to mention, we got after this on the cross-examination, part of his motivation to testify for the government was that he could be anonymous, that he wasn't going to be in a press release, microchip arrested, whatever the guy's name is. He didn't want that to happen. So the fact that they allowed him to do this was just, it was one of a litany of abuses that went on just during the trial, not even talking about the investigation or even the use of the law here, which obviously were challenging on appeal.
Can you tell people about that? I think of most people that have heard of your case don't even understand that it's still going on, because you had one piece of good news maybe a year back, and I think people all thought that the case was dropped. I don't think people understand you are still being prosecuted and facing a jail sentence from a 2016 meme. Can you just give people the timeline on all of that?
Absolutely. So 7 days after Joe Biden was inaugurated, I was arrested. I went to trial in spring of 2023. And in October 2023, I was sentenced to 7 months federal prison after being convicted at trial on a single count. And don't even get me started on the venue they chose, which was Brooklyn. They brought it to one of the most liberal venues imaginable, and there was no connection to Brooklyn. So after I was sentenced, the judge said, I'm not giving you a bond. I'm not giving you a bond to stay out of prison pending your appeal, even though we raised a number of extremely strong appellate issues. I'm not giving you a bond. You have to report on January the 18th of 24. Now, we went to the circuit court, and it was kind of like, I want to say it was a slam dunk. The circuit court gave the bond because we obviously met the requirements under the law. It's not necessarily even the highest bar. The facts of my case and the fact that there's no threat to the public and that kind of thing, and the fact that the sentence is so short, I would have easily served the entire sentence by now if I didn't get the bond. So I got the bond, and this case was argued on April 5th of 2024. So it's already unusual that we're now coming up on 14 months of appeal. And a lot of people said, what's going on? Why is DOJ prosecuting you? What's Donald Trump doing? Why didn't Trump pardon you? Well, we could have gone to Trump, to President Trump, and said, as a reporter, President Trump has brought up my case a handful of times by name and in his weaponization order, where he ordered the government to investigate all these weaponized cases. He brought up my case. They tried to throw a person in jail for a meme, and people don't understand this case is still going on. We're not asking for a pardon, my lawyers and I, because we think we're going to win the appeal, and we want to win the appeal because we want to challenge the use of this law and push back against the government's abuse of this law, and not say, well, let's just get a pardon and everything is moot, and the government can still use this law however they please down the road. So that's what we're waiting on, that appeal. And it's already unusual that we're coming up on 14 months. Why haven't they made a decision? Don't know. They usually make decisions in 6 to 12 months, I would say, sometimes even quicker than that. Once in a while, these cases go 12, 18 months, and God forbid 2 years. So it's very unusual that the case would drag on this long, but we're waiting for the appeal to come down, for the decision to come down.
I want people to understand what you just said very clearly.
Wild.
Doug could be shooting for a pardon from the president. The president's mentioned his case before. He's willingly staying in the jaws of the beast, because it's been said that, like, being prosecuted, like you're in a cell with a bear, and most people, you just want to get out of there as soon as possible because it can rip your head off. But Doug is willingly staying in this cage to fight for everyone's rights, because the idea that you could be arrested for posting a meme is so insane and so against the First Amendment. He wants to beat that out of the judicial system. I don't think people understand. That's the most self-sacrificing thing I can think about. And I have to imagine it's both stressful for your family and very expensive. Can you just talk to that for just a moment how expensive and how stressful it's been for your family?
Oh yeah, the expense of this thing is easily over $1 million. Just the appeal alone. When we had to go just ask for a appeal bond, that had my lawyers went and argued that case in the court. So you can imagine that's 50, 75K that alone, not to mention going back and arguing the appeal. So just the appeal alone could be $250,000, 300,000. So we're talking well over 1 million once you consider pre-trial, the trial, and post-trial motion. So not to mention, it's hard on my family. I'm on supervised release right now. If I want to jump on an airplane and go visit my family, my friends, if I want to go to DC, if I want to go to almost anywhere in this country, I have to ask the court, please, can I have permission to go this place? So God forbid we lose the appeal in the circuit. And then the question is, well, pardon or, ask for pardon and go to the Supreme Court. Going to the Supreme Court, we're talking about another, $200,000, $300,000. So it's extremely.
Here's also the problem,
toxic.
right? But here's also the problem. Like right now, you're in the appeals court, right?
Yes.
So you're in appeals court because you're arguing that your First Amendment rights are being violated, correct?
Yes, that's only one part of the appeal, but absolutely, it's a huge part of the appeal.
Here's my thing: say they grant your appeal, and they say your rights were being infringed upon. Who goes to fucking jail for that?
Right, nobody.
That's part of where we fall short in the United States, is that the government can infringe upon our rights with impunity. Like they can just keep going. And when the Supreme Court finally does do their motherfucking job and say, hey, that's unconstitutional, they don't pay for it. Nobody gets paid for it. If any politician that voted on a law or any judge that proceeded over a court case that was then deemed to be unconstitutional, they should lose their position, if not go to jail.
I know that the only attorney I've seen really making statements, U.S. District Attorney, any type of attorney, is Pam Bondi's not doing it. I haven't seen anybody go to prison or get investigated or get prosecuted for their crimes in the deep state under Biden. But the only attorney that I see making moves is Ed Martin. And I think that Ed will be bringing prosecutions against people that abused their authority and did any other type of crime under Biden. So I like seeing that out of Ed. But, to focus on what's happening to Doug for just a second, I know that Doug has started a fund called Meme Defense Fund. And please correct me if I'm wrong, but your intentions are not only to help you with the financial burden of the case after you've been pressed upon by the government. It's costing you something like $1 million. But not only do you want to fight your own case and have that actually lift that weight lifted off your family's shoulders, but you want that meme defense fund to protect Americans going forward. The way that people used to think the ACLU did and any other institution that was supposed to be for free speech, that's what you want the meme defense fund to be. Is that right, Doug?
Well, it's true. If there's funds, God willing, there's funds left over, and absolutely that these funds can be used to help other people. 100%. Right now, we're still raising money, and I would love for that to be the case. I'll be fighting for people's rights and injustices after my case is done. There's a number of very deserving individuals who are still being prosecuted by Biden holdovers in the government. And these people are deserving of pardons. These people are deserving of restitution. And these people are deserving to have, in some cases, like you said, their prosecutors and investigators should be investigated themselves. And that's one of the reasons you mentioned Ed Martin. Ed Martin, one of the reasons he was not confirmed as DC District Attorney, U.S. Attorney, is because he wanted restitution for a lot of these J6ers who were thrown into pretrial detention and then later on had their only felony charge tossed out, where if you're not charged with a felony, you're not going to be held in pretrial detention. And where do these people go? Where do I go we'll be filing, we'll be arguing and filing for restitution after I'm done with my case, absolutely, and filing for also the investigators to be investigated, what the prosecutors did in my case, and not just talking about the investigation itself, which was obviously chilling against free speech, but there were a number of procedural violations. The problem with the DOJ is they will do anything to get a conviction because they don't want the embarrassment of, let's say, dismissing a case after an indictment. That's the last thing. And then they don't want to lose a trial. All they're thinking about is their careers. They're two-faced. They try to be everything to everybody to advance their career. They'll go to a defendant and say, sorry, I've got turn this phone off.
It's all good.
They'll go to a defendant and say, oh yeah, no, I wasn't really, part of your prosecution anyway. And they'll say another thing to the left. So it's completely crazy situation.
Wild.
Incredible. And I hope that we don't sell anything on this show. We've never sold a thing on this show, but I hope that people watching this go to memedefensefund.com and they support Doug. Like, if you enjoyed this show at all, go support Doug. Any episode that we did, even if you don't like this one for whatever, you don't, that'd be crazy, but whatever. Go support Doug. I can't think of someone that deserves the support more than Doug Mackey. memedefensefund.com. And the other thing
money doesn't go to me. That money goes to a 501c3 nonprofit. So it's not like people. It's amazing that you can spend 1 point whatever million or raise money. In my case, personally, I've spent 6 figures, but I've raised over $1 million and to pay for a legal offense. And people will say, "Oh, another grifter!" Like we're just lining our pockets completely. So you can be like hundreds of thousands in the red, and people will say, "Oh, grifter." No, the money goes to a 501c3 nonprofit.
Yeah, this is the case that people should. I've seen a lot of people try to raise money for a lot of things, and I understood people giving money to Shiloh Hendricks as a backlash against Carmelo Anthony that was walking around after stabbing a kid in the heart. I understood people giving the money to Shiloh as F you to Carmelo and everything else. But if you want to give money on the internet to a worthy cause, this is the cause. This is the preeminent free speech case in the country.
Absolutely.
People tell me all the time that, there's these laws now. You can get arrested for saying things that are anti-Semitic. There is not a single law in the country where you can go to jail for saying that you hate Jews or you hate Israel. You will not go to jail for that. But Doug Mackey is facing jail for posting a Hillary Clinton a meme making fun of Hillary Clinton voters and telling them to text their vote. So if you love America, if you love the First Amendment, this is the case to support. And forget that he's hundreds of thousands in the red. I wish to God that Doug was given $10 million in support right now, so that the Meme Defense Fund could fight any type of bullshit after this. Up into and including if somebody was prosecuted for saying I hate Jews, defend that. This is America. You could say what you want in this country. If you're not threatening people with violence, you could say whatever you want. And Doug didn't say anything even close to anything that should be prosecuted. So if you're watching this, give at least $1. Show your support. Go to memedefensefund.com and support Doug Mackey right now.
Thank you.
Outstanding.
Thank you. And to your point, people will be prosecuted for that if they are allowed to continue weaponizing these conspiracy laws. They would love to go after, quote unquote, the alt-right or the right-wing racists and the conspiracy theorists and all this disinformation, misinformation. They would absolutely love to. And the vector for them to do it is these conspiracy laws. It's their end run that they're trying around the First Amendment. So if you fund my case, we're pushing back against all of that.
Thank God. Amazing. Thank God for that. And on a smaller note, obviously not as important as your freedom, but your ability to speak still important. And for people that don't know, Doug's original account, Ricky Vaughn, has not been restored on Twitter. Every nut job, every person I can think of that they're the most despicable people on Twitter. I even want them to get their accounts back, and they did.
Doug isn't doing anything wrong back when he had Ricky Vaughn, did nothing wrong. He still doesn't have his account back, and that needs to be rectified. So for that one, I would tell people, if you're watching this, if you're so cheap that you didn't give $1 to Doug Mackey, at the very least, or if you want extra credit and you did give to Doug, go on Twitter, tweet at Elon Musk, tweet at ALX. At ALX is also well connected on Twitter. Elon knows him.
Great guy.
Tell Elon Musk, tell ALX that we want to restore Doug Mackey's Twitter account, and that should be part of the snowball effect in getting more awareness that Doug is still being prosecuted, that it's super wrong, that it's the case against the First Amendment that's still going on. And if you want to free Doug Mackey and save the First Amendment, let's also unban Ricky Vaughn, free Ricky Vaughn on Twitter to bring awareness to what's going on. So, Doug, if you could tell people, what is your exact Twitter handle that people need to go and tell ALX, tell Elon Musk, hey, bring back Ricky Vaughn.
So the old Twitter handle was Ricky_Vaughn99. I hope I'm getting that correct. No, I'm 99% sure that's what it was. Ricky_Vaughn99. Been a long time, almost 10 years.
I want people to hear you even spell it out. So one more time, Ricky_Vaughn99. And then how do you spell the last name Vaughn for people that don't know?
Right. VAUGHN.
So Ricky_Vaughn. Ricky_VAUGHN99. Yeah. That's the account. That account helped elect Donald Trump. And I venture to say, I kid you not, the start of this show, we talked about Doug was pouring the foundations of the entire meme movement that helped elect Donald Trump in 2016. For people that can't stump the Trump, the Pepe memes, build the wall, without that type of energy, that fun stuff, I doubt Trump would have been elected. So if you appreciate that we have Trump in office right now, you need to support Doug in this fight and tell Elon Musk, tell ALX, bring him back on Twitter, bring back Ricky Vaughn. OG meme master from 2016, helped elect Trump. There's no reason he should still be banned on Twitter, and getting him unbanned brings awareness to his case. He's still being prosecuted for posting memes.
I can't believe it's still going on. That's
crazy.
What's wild to me. Like that it's still we're in 2025.
Coming up on 5 years.
That's amazing. That's just crazy.
Yeah. It is crazy. And let me just point out, the memers are the modern day pamphleteers. I mean, this is a populist MAGA movement, and the memers are the modern day pamphleteers. And these pamphleteers are able to sort of take the air out of this great big gas machine that is the mainstream media. And that's what's so powerful about it. Look, it's rough, it's tumble. People make mistakes. People say crazy things, but this is America. That's what this country was founded upon.
Yep,
that's
absolutely.
Right. Yeah, we hit a high note with hopefully people donating to memedefensefund.com and hopefully telling Elon to unban Doug. Doug, what other things in the country concern you right now? What are you seeing with Trump back in office? Is it the judicial attacks where these judges are doing total overreach and trying to say Trump doesn't have the power to tariff other countries, tariffs which are working incredibly, all these other countries pledging trillions in investment in America, or the judges telling Trump that you're not allowed to deport even criminal, illegal aliens? What do you think are the main issues that we're facing as Americans right now under the Trump, while we have Trump still in office?
Well, I would put the deportations as number 2, because as Trump keeps saying, they let in whatever it is, 22 million people in 4 years. And then they're saying, well, at the rate we're going with the courts and everything else, well, all right, you can deport those 22 million people over the next, 2,000 years, before it gets done. So it's ridiculous. But number one, and I was actually on OAN the other day talking to Vish Burra on the Matt Gaetz show. And this is actually what I find most concerning. And what he talks about is that the whole movement against Trump sprung out of this Russia gate hysteria and Russian, and that's actually how my prosecution was started. That's how my prosecution started. Was Senator Amy Klobuchar was having one of these committee hearings, and I don't even want to imitate her because it's too painful to hear her voice, but she puts the meme on this giant board and says, "This is election disinformation. This is Russia. This is Russia. You need to investigate this." And so
I remember him.
Yeah, so
I heard
that's how
that
it
in her
started.
voice too. I heard it exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, nails on the chalk.
This is a felony. So anyway, that's that's where the whole thing started from. And look, these people are still operating in the shadows. And quite frankly, that whole Russia Gate network, including Norm Eisen and all of these creatures, they're plotting, and that Trump, if he loses in 2028, God forbid, or Vance or whoever loses in 2028, they're going to try to take over the machinations of government once again and do another purge, which my prosecution was essentially the first planned purge. I mean, the J6ers were at the same time, but they were planning mine for 2 years. Career elements in the deep state investigated my crime, so to speak, and during the Trump administration. That's what they do. They operate and they have free reign. And my big concern is there are 94 U.S. attorneys' offices, and there are 30 or 90, I don't know how many FBI field offices that are just filled with these atrocious people, and they better be purged out. They better be cleaned out. And the idea of an independent, independent Justice Department and independent FBI is just an excuse for them to operate these fiefdoms where it's not so that they have integrity. It's to accumulate their power in these fiefdoms where they can then investigate whoever they want, prosecute whoever they want with a free hand because, the president can't interfere with the Justice Department. Right. So I would say taking away regardless of what you like, whether you like Eric Adams or not, I would say that dismissing his case was a good first step. And look, it's great that President Trump has the pardon pen and he can make all these cases go away after they happen. But look, I want to see a more active White House and Justice Department in going into these offices and these FBI field offices and putting these people on notice that they can't just do whatever they want. They need to dismiss unjust prosecutions, like we're talking about Roger Ver, we're talking about Dr. Moore, and there's other ones, including some unlikely bedfellows. One Taste, this company, who I gotten to know recently, and they're being prosecuted right now in Brooklyn as we speak. It's kind of like a Me Too thing. And they need to go in there, in my opinion, and put these career prosecutors in line. And there needs to be more firings, more resignations, and especially in the FBI.
I've said there's 3 numbers that Trump supporters need to watch, and that'll really tell you how successful the administration is right now. One is firings. How many people have been fired from the DOJ and the FBI that were in there under Biden? Right. Because that number needs to be 100% of who was in there under Biden. So we need this. How many firings have there been? How many prosecutions have there been of deep state criminals that were doing all sorts of heinous things while Biden was in office? And how many deportations have there been? And I think that as much as I love Trump, he's doing great. The investments into America from the tariffs are phenomenal. I love that the economy is coming back, but that doesn't matter if we have no justice system, people being locked up for anything, and millions of migrants taking all the jobs that come from the investments anyway.
Yeah.
So we need the deportations, and I think something that is flying under the radar, it was a big issue for a minute because Vivek spoke on Christmas and called Americans stupid, but those H-1Bs, the legal immigrants are as much as a problem as the illegal, and people don't understand that. The legal immigrants are hollowing out America. I don't want to be like Ireland. I don't want to be like Canada. You can go to major cities in those countries, and you'd think you're in India. I don't want to live in India, and I don't want to have people taking jobs from Americans and doing them at cut rates.
And AI can now write code 20 times faster than a programmer. So why do we need all these H-1B programmers now? We don't need them anymore. All you need is talented people that can write this code using AI. I mean, it's crazy to even think that we need all these look, it's one thing to say, hey, let's go get the brightest engineer in Finland and he's going to build a rocket ship. That's not what this is. This is like, let's go and grab some H-1B programmers to, help program our pornography app on iPhone. It's crazy.
Basically.
Legitimate. They have H-1Bs running gas stations, H-1Bs running fast food restaurants. They are taking jobs that the middle class of America needs, and they're giving them to foreigners. And frankly, America's economy needs to come back. There's a lot of people struggling for a job. To give it to foreigners that you're bringing over from another country, it's a problem. So I love the Trump administration, but the three numbers people need to focus on: are we getting firings out of the DOJ, FBI, everything else? Are we getting prosecutions of the people from those agencies that did evil? And are we getting deportations of the people that don't belong in America, and we're spending our tax dollars to bring them here, feed them, give them housing, etc.? So I hope people pay attention to that stuff.
And we're giving them cheap loans.
Exactly.
SBA loans.
No kidding.
That are set aside for minorities.
Doug, it was a pleasure meeting you. I do need to run, guys. I got clients. So.
We are at the mark. Before you get out of here, Alan, Doug is where can people currently find you on Twitter? What else do you want to say before we get out of here?
Yeah, please find me at Doug Mackey Case on X/Twitter, and you can go on my Substack if you'd like, although I haven't posted in a while, but I will be posting things on it. DouglasMackey.substack.com. And that's with 2 S's, DOUGLASS. So that's where you can find me. And once more, if you want to donate, Meme Defense Fund is a great place to do it. And any crypto you want to send or cash or whatever, you can go to DouglasMackey.com and find all that information there.
Frankly, if you watch this, you have the time, you're watching right now, 40 minutes, all of this information, and Doug is fighting for your rights, and you don't even give $1. Shame on you. You better give to Doug right now. MemeDefenseFund.com. Go and give Doug some money. I'm going to donate on there. Go give Doug some money.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. And we will be back next week.
Thanpleasure for coming on.
And Doug, pleasure meeting you. Thank you for coming on.
Great to meet you. Likewise.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Take care.
The Holy Trinity Bundle isn't just about weight loss, it's about empowering you to find your healthiest, happiest self. Let's talk about what's in the bundle and how it caters specifically to our needs. First, we got Ember, which is not just any fat burner. It's also going to boost your mood, your energy levels, while also suppressing your appetite. And if you're worried about it being too strong, you can split the tablet in half to tailor its impact.